On today's That Park Place Daily Countdown, did John Lasseter just get fired again? The daughter of Stan Lee fights for her father's name. Daily Wire releases a Rorschach test for how people feel about Disney. A rumored leak says the Transformers will be using the superhero formula. And California wants to charge you $500 a night to leave a Disney hotel. All that on today's That Park Place. What a bright and beautiful morning it is here on That Park Place for the That Park Place Daily News Countdown. Somebody told me the other day that it's not a countdown because we're counting up. Well, yeah.
I think that's appropriate, right? Look, countdown sounds better than count up. We're gonna keep going with the countdown.
I think we are. That being said, let's get to that count up here for all the news. That should be fun.
Number 1.
Good morning, it's Jonas J. Campbell with your first story here. This one out of Deadline. Apple and Skydance Animation are parting ways with Skydance taking Spellbound. It looks like Apple's going to continue to work with the Skydance live action segment. This story by Mike Fleming Jr. While it will continue to have a deal with Skydance Media for tentpole live action and TV fare, Apple is parting ways with Skydance Animation, the company run by former Pixar chief John Lasseter. Their multi-year deal has come to a conclusion and Apple is making other kinds of films. Notably, this weekend's opener, Killers of the Flower Moon, which opens globally Friday. Skydance Animation will land in a new deal quickly and Apple will give them back the project Spellbound, which had been set at Apple TV Plus but won't move forward. It looks like the idea that Skydance Animation will land on its feet is accurate because Netflix, less than an hour later, announced that they have a multi-year deal with Skydance Animation, with Spellbound being their first release. Here's a nice picture of John Lasseter in the Coco era. The new details here are that the animated movies will be releasing directly to Netflix. There was some question in the past on whether or not these would go theatrical or straight to streaming. Sounds like it is definitely straight to streaming now. Down here at the bottom, it says future Skydance animation films for Netflix include Ray Gun by Brad Bird. You might know him from The Incredibles 2, Ratatouille, and The Iron Giant, and an untitled Jack and the Beanstalk project directed by Rich Moore, who helped with Zootopia and Wreck-It Ralph. There are a lot of details that we have to leave out in this short form segment, so I'm going to call it now that we're probably going to do a longer form segment on this. In the meantime, though, what do you think about John Lasseter going to Netflix now? Is this another step in the fall from grace, or is this Lasseter finally finding a company that won't give him so many restrictions on producing his art? Let us know.
Number 2.
Stan Lee's daughter is going after her father's name, likeness, and intellectual property rights in a fight that started on Tuesday, October 10th. And I have a feeling this one is going to get spicy. Hi folks, it's C here once again for That Park Place, covering a story inspired by Gene Madhouse over at Deadline. Madhouse reports that J.C. Lee alleges that POW Entertainment has made some suspicious transactions and has ended payments required by the intellectual property agreement. Apparently, the concern does not end there, as POW Entertainment could be attempting to dilute her stake in the company. JC is now seeking access to the company's books to confirm that her stake has been reduced from 45% as the trustee down to only 15% in just a few years. Add to all that a missing $125,000 annual salary that was supposed to be paid to her, and now the parent company of POW Entertainment, Kamsing Holdings, is trying to part with its stake in the company as a whole. Yikes. I would say that this is rather suspicious, but what do you think? Is JC within her rights to be compensated and well informed about the treatment of her father's legacy? And does it seem like there's something very odd afoot? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments section below.
Number 3.
Bounding into comics editor and fairy tale connoisseur Spencer Piccoli here to let you know that in issuing a direct challenge to Disney, the Daily Wire has announced that they will soon be releasing their own live-action Snow White film titled Snow White and the Evil Queen. Announced by company co-CEO Jeremy Boring on October 16th, otherwise known as the Walt Disney Company's 100th anniversary, the film will be the first from the company's new kids entertainment studio, Bentkey, and star YouTuber Brett Cooper, herself perhaps better known as the eponymous host of the Daily Wire's The Comment Section with Brett Cooper live show. Revealing the project to audiences, Boring asserted, quote, "Everything you see today from Disney was made possible by Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So there's no better example of Disney's disregard for their own heritage or their disregard for their own audience than their current remake of their own classic film." Walt once said about Snow White, quote, "To me, I thought it was the perfect story. I had the sympathetic dwarves, I had the prince and the girl, the romance. I just thought it was a perfect story." Unfortunately, the company Disney founded doesn't agree with their founder and visionary. They're remaking their own iconic film nearly 100 years later, and they've decided to make some key changes, end quote. He continued, "While Disney still uses Walt's name, they've all but abandoned his legacy. Instead of telling stories about timeless truths like what the ancient fairy tales were all about, Disney's new Snow White is an apology for their past and will expose children to the popular but destructive lies of the current moment, end quote. Alongside this announcement, Boring also revealed the film's first trailer, which though brief, notably features Cooper's debut as the titular princess. At current, the film is set to release in 2024, though Boring has yet to confirm whether it will release after or before Disney's upcoming remake. That all said, what do you make of Snow White and the Evil Queen? Do you think it will offer any honest competition to Disney? Are you waiting to see more before making any judgments? Let us know your thoughts.
Number 4.
Yes, that's right. Tommy Tables here with some juicy news on the Transformers. You might be aware that there is a new Transformers animated movie that's coming out next fall called Transformers 1, and it features a really stellar lineup of voice actors. It's a really awesome group, and we've just gotten a leak out of China of a possible story synopsis. So at the China Licensing Expo, there was a user who reported that they had seen a teaser for this movie, and they basically said that it was a plot that revolved around love, hate, and rivalry between Optimus Prime, Megatron, Bumblebee, and Alita, as well as the journey to obtaining the transformation cog, which I guess is the MacGuffin of the series. Apparently, the Transformers aren't able to actually transform at the beginning of the movie, but they have this hollow space in their chest, and that once they get this cog, they are able to then, take on the various forms of cars, tanks, guns, and jets that we all know and love. What's even more fascinating is that the leaker actually drew from memory what Optimus Prime and Megatron look like. And this is pretty wild. You can see this is the hole in their chest where the transformation cogs are supposed to go, and they look very rounded and non-threatening, I suppose. And I'm of two minds of this, because on the one hand, if this is really going to be the reboot that Hasbro wants it to be, it's always best to start at the beginning, before the Civil War and whatnot. But at the same time, it kind of sounds a bit like your typical superhero formula. You've got the heroes, they're introduced, they get their powers, they have to learn how to use their powers, and the leaker even says that after they get this cog, they gain the ability to transform, but they have these incomplete forms that result in humorous and bizarre shapes. So I'm guessing you're seeing like a truck with an arm out of its, windshield and whatnot. But then in the final and third act, they've got it mastered, and then they, do the heroic things that they need to have done. I'm open-minded on this. I think it might be a good movie, and again, it could be a good refresh for the franchise. But what are your thoughts? I am looking forward to this. Cautiously optimistic, I think. How about you?
Number 5.
Vash Sky here with our next story, this time from Mouse Info. An additional transient occupancy tax applies to stays at the villas at Disneyland Hotel, ranging from $28, not bad, to $557 per night. This time from Jody Inigo. It says here, many Disney Vacation Club members are used to enjoying stays at the Disney hotels in Orlando and Anaheim, but for the newest property, the villas at Disneyland Hotel, there's an additional transient occupancy tax imposed by the city of Anaheim. According to Disney, this tax must be paid before you check out of the hotel, and the amount of tax will vary from year to year. And the tax rate is subject to change. For 2023, the tax rate comes in at $2.78 per point, so the tax ranges from $27 a night for the cheapest accommodations in a duo studio during the slowest period to up to $556 per night for the poshest 3-bedroom villa during a peak period. It's interesting. There are conversations going on in the California government to get rid of these kind of junk fees that all these hotel proprietors and other establishments have been adding on to bills here. And there also has been momentum, strangely, from the White House to do the same. So I would definitely see this as, well, one of the things that maybe we could do away with right here. It's already so expensive to stay, and Anaheim in general, unbelievable expensive to stay on property at the Disneyland Hotel, given that there's not many rooms on property and the demand is so high, supply so low. What do you think about all this? Are you going to be staying here? Did you know about these junk fees before you actually made your reservations for this hotel? Please let us know in the comments below.
Obviously, the only reason that wouldn't pass is because of the legislation and the lobbying from Big Junk Fee.
Yes, exactly.
This is a fascinating thing to me. I junk fees, if they happen, that's one thing. We call them junk fees because they seem like things that are just tacked on at the end. There's part of me that's just like, okay, well, what if we just force them to disclose what those fees are right there at the start? I feel like that's the solution to all of this. When I went straight internet only instead of buying cable, I noticed that all of those amazing fees that ended up on all of my bills went away. All of a sudden, my cable bill was actually predictable when it was just broadband. Fascinating.
That's tough. Yeah, I'm sure they'll tax you per bite eventually, right?
Oh yeah, that's
what's
coming.
coming.
All right, well, thank you very much for tuning in to another episode of That Park Place. If you got comments, leave them in the comments, or if you want to talk to us when it's not part of a video, we've got these Twitter handles above us. You can get in touch with us there, or if you want to go down into the description box, you can go check out the content from all of our contributors, which we are lucky to have. But until tomorrow, or in fact, because we're doing 2 videos a day now, until later today, stay tuned to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com for all the news that should be fun. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.